All right, we're going to talk now about what happened in Minneapolis this morning. The Minneapolis City Council voted to enact new tobacco sales regulations and restrictions, specifically really aimed at stopping teenagers from getting their hands on e-cigarettes or vapes. Now, a couple big changes here. One is a restriction of space, of distance, that new tobacco licenses will not be given to a store within 300 feet of a school, K through 12, and that the minimum price for an electronic cigarette be $25. It was averaging around $8. So joining us now is City Council member Katie Cashman, who is one of the authors of this ordinance. Katie, thank you for joining us. First of all, let's do some background. There have been a number of things done over the years to try to curb teenagers and youth and tobacco use. What led to this new ordinance now?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. And the current average price of vapes in Minneapolis is about $17. Okay. So raising it up to $25 for a minimum price is a 45% increase. We have statistics from the National Institute of Health that find that increasing the price of cigarettes by just 10% leads adults to smoking 3 to 5% less, and youth smoking 6 to 7% less. So we know from the studies that increasing the price of these products is a deterrent, especially for youth, to start smoking. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to prevent youth in our city from getting addicted to vapes, to cigarettes, and developing what can be lifelong nicotine addictions that cause so many health problems. Last year, the City Council set a minimum price for cigarettes in the city at $15. And I heard from many parents in my ward after that, which said, cigarettes are not what youth are choosing these days. The youth are actually going to the e-cigarettes, the vapes. So if we want to prevent youth from getting addicted to smoking and to nicotine, we're going to have to address the vape problem. And so that's what we're trying to do here today.
And this is a case, I know you said you heard from a lot of people. Have you checked, though, on neighboring communities, too? Is this something where you see, would this just lead to a migration of sales to surrounding communities? How do you see that working?
Yeah, that's always a part of it. But, restricting access is always a good thing to harmful substances, I think. And so at least in the city of Minneapolis, within our boundaries, we're creating some barriers to accessing this product. I will note that one other city in the metro area, St. Anthony Village, also set a minimum price at $20 per vape, and that went into effect in April. We also looked at other examples nationwide. So San Diego County out in California has a minimum price as well. Minneapolis tends to be a leader, so I wouldn't be surprised if other cities and towns also start to try to find restrictions like the ones we're doing with the price and with the zoning code.
Okay. Let's talk about that zoning code quickly, too. I know it's 300 feet, and that's a straight line. That's not walking, to schools, but shops that are already within that perimeter, they're grandfathered in. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep. Businesses who already have their tobacco license will not be impacted, but it will impact new businesses who are trying to set up shop. And, the 300 feet from schools, it will align with the cannabis sales ordinance as well as our liquor code. So for liquor, cannabis, now tobacco will also be restricted from being sold near schools. I think it's helpful to have a streamlined definition across all these categories. And for me, it was very important to remove the exemption from downtown from spacing requirements. I represent downtown Minneapolis. 70,000 people live in downtown Minneapolis, and so exempting downtown from spacing really just subjected a lot of residents to an inundation of tobacco stores, which ultimately are not a healthy business to live next to.
And I would imagine you've heard a lot of pushback from those tobacco shops as this has been proposed and now passed this morning. What have you been hearing?
Not a lot, to be honest. We had a public hearing that had dozens of people come in, all in support. almost all in support. We also had several dozen written comments, public comments submitted. There were a few companies that came in to express some of the difficulties that they'll have in sales. But ultimately, I think we should be acknowledging that relying on selling an addictive substance to young people is not a sustainable or ethical way to operate a business. And we have many ways to support small businesses, but getting young people addicted to nicotine and tobacco shouldn't be one of them. So I think it is healthy for our city to be supporting businesses that are healthy for our neighborhoods as well.
Okay, and I read through the ordinance. There's a lot of other points in there too, beyond the perimeter or the distance and the price. You want to go over quickly some of the other changes that this makes?
Those are the main policy changes. There are some other technical changes in there, but ultimately, setting the minimum price. We did add an amendment today to sort of exclude parts of nicotine sales, so nicotine products. So, for example, some vape shops that sell reusable modular type devices will not be subject to this. That was something that was brought up in the public hearing as well by a couple of companies.
Okay.
Removing the downtown exemption, setting the distance between schools. Those are the main policy goals with this. And of course, there's always more that we can be doing to address youth and smoking. And so I think the public health advocacy community is always going to keep pressuring us to do more with the powers that we have on the city council.
Okay, and then tell everybody too, when does this take effect?
I believe it goes into effect immediately. There's no buffer time on this one. So it was important for me because I have many tobacco stores trying to set up shop in Loring Park where I live, and we wanted to pass this so that we could restrict some of that and prevent those shops from being able to take up some of the vacant commercial spaces that we have. So
okay.
Timeliness was important to me in working on this.
All right, and a unanimous vote too this morning.
Right.
So, Katie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to kind of explain some of these details here, and appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you.